Do you have any direction yet, or are you like?
We're actually back on campus. We have probably 80% of our staff on campus. Not many faculty, but we do have about 80% of our staff back on campus. We're transitioning back slowly as far as that goes, but we're planning on doing a high flex type environment for the fall semester, where students have the option to come on site and take class if they choose, they feel safe to do that. It will be socially distanced classrooms, which have been an interesting process. And the students that do not feel comfortable with coming on site, they will learn virtually using a virtual type environment. So we're planning on moving forward. Actually, our semester moved up a week. So we're starting a week early because the Louisiana State Board of Regents, who is over us, decided that they want all in-person class sessions to end the week before Thanksgiving. So our whole semester shifted a week. So during the peak flu season, we do not have anyone on campus as far as students are concerned. So that's our approach as of right now.
Yeah, at MSU, we've now, so they announced a few weeks ago that we are going to be fully open for the fall. What they've actually done for us is 50% of the classes are going to be online in the fall. 25% of them are going to be what they're calling this high flex, whatever that means. And then the remaining are going to be in person. So the ones that are remaining are typically going to be the smaller, like labs, things that require in person, that type of stuff. So no classes larger than, I think it was going to be 50 students. And with that, they're even spreading it out. So, you know, splitting up classes that were slightly larger. In fact, they're even moving some classes to be on Saturdays and all that type of stuff to space it out so there's enough large classrooms that they can put these things into. The high flex thing is kind of interesting. The way that they're approaching it for us is most of the class is going to be online, but there's going to be certain meeting times when the class gets together. So for us, you know, a class of 80 some students may only meet like 3 or 4 times throughout the semester for in-person, like discussions or, you know, projects or that type of stuff, where the rest of it's going to be online. So they're still figuring out how they're going to space out all the classes and all that type of stuff for those types of things. But it's definitely going to be different. They have announced that for our football, which is a big thing on our campus, that the capacity of the stadium right now is going to be 20%. So we're going to have a pretty empty stadium for when they actually have football. But student athletes started showing up onto our campus this week. In fact, they all had to report on Monday for testing, and then they're allowed to start their practices and all that type of stuff, I believe today even. So today's Thursday.
Yeah, I've heard that that's kind of what's going to go on here. I think it's going to be more remote learning than on site. There will be the labs that will be in person. I haven't heard yet. I don't think they've made a full decision on how if they're going to stagger classes or not. And I have not heard about football yet, but I'm assuming that could be the way we're going to go too. I'm hoping. I'd like more than 20%, but of course we have to be careful. And so as far as our department, UWIT, we are home remote until September. It pushed out again until September, and then we're going to reevaluate in September. And it looks like, you know, we may be, as our department, not necessarily all through the campus, but as our department, we will be a more remote type department. People that want to be on campus for whatever reason, maybe their, you know, connection's bad or whatever, they'll make accommodations for them. But it seems like right now we have no direction on if we're going to stagger days or anything. It's just more like if you probably should work remote because it's working just fine. So I don't know how the rest of the campus is going to transition. Everything's still up in the air as far as information that we're getting.
Yeah, for us, they've kind of broken everybody into 4 different groups. So there's the people who are mission critical and support life safety and that type of stuff. They're just started on campus this last week. 30 days after they've started, then they've got the second waves, the next level of critical folks that need to be on campus, and then they've got a third group and then a fourth group. And pretty much anybody who self-selects in any of those groups that want to continue to work from home, they're allowed to. There's actually not going to be any mandate that anybody has to return to campus unless their job specifically requires it. But they're allowing people to kind of self-select to go onto campus. The big thing that's kind of holding everything back for our IT over the last probably 4 years has been our IT has taken on a lot of responsibilities from centrally as opposed to from the units. So our central IT has grown leaps and bounds, and because of that, they've relocated people into very dense office spaces. Cube lands and all that type of stuff. And now they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we undo some of that? Because we can't have people sitting on top of each other, to support, to do all this stuff. So now a lot of it is like they're trying to figure out, okay, we had 40 people in this small office space in cubes. Now we're going to go and separate them out into like 5 different areas and not, sitting next to each other when they are on campus and all that stuff. So there's a lot of discussions on trying to figure out those types of things. And they're trying to meet these 30-day deadlines as they're kind of rolling this out.
Yeah, for us, our transition back was a pretty interesting process. I was one of the very, very limited numbers that never really left. I did report to work every day throughout the event. Me, along with a couple others in the IT staff, our CIO, and a couple others that were deemed mission critical, which had to be approved by the president. And they looked at our job function and what we were doing during that time period before they made that decision. They brought back our maintenance staff first. The maintenance staff had came and they in some public areas they came and put up different kind of petitions and things that help protect this, like secretaries that would be in more of a public environment and things like that. And our custodial staff came back a week later. They pretty much cleaned down the buildings, even though they were cleaned right after the shelter in place went in. The custodial staff stayed another week or so, and they cleaned down the buildings at that point. And then they started allowing some of the staff to come back. And in order for us to come in the building in the mornings, we do get our temperature checked. We do have a questionnaire that we have to take every single day. And we do get our wristbands that prove that we've been checked before we can go into any other buildings on campus. So every day is a different color. We're each responsible for our staff. So I do screen all my people as they come into campus every single day. So, which is good. I get to see them in the morning and talk to them and make sure everything's good. Kind of get our marching orders. But yes, even students, we do have summer classes, in-person summer classes going on right now.
Wow.
Which is very limited. We have about 150, 180 students. And we actually have a summer camp with younger kids, basically 5 through teenage years. And they get screened and temperature checks every day before they can set foot in the buildings and everything. So that's our precautions and how we're kind of leaning into coming back.
Yeah. We've had essential workers through IT that have been at the office the whole time, cabling guys that need to go out and work on things at servers and things like that. So they come in every day, and we're not temperature checking. We are contact tracing though. So if you do have to go in the office, you have to fill out a form that says, and the essential workers have to fill this out every day. How are you feeling? Have you been here, there, that kind of thing? And then what buildings are you going to be in? How long are you going to be there? Who, they want to follow you through. So there's a lot of paperwork that has to be overseen. And the other thing that we just heard today, people are conscious that they have to wear masks, but now it's required. The university has said this is a requirement. If you're going to be in any of the buildings, you have to have your mask, because some people would be wearing masks and some people wouldn't, so now it's going to be a mandate. So
yeah, if we step foot out of our office, we have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
You can take your mask in your office, which all of us has individual offices. We're not cubicles, thankfully. So we're kind of socially distanced, but you do have to wear a mask anytime you step foot out your office.
Yeah.
Yeah, with us, we've, kind of the same thing too, doing the temperature checks pretty much every day. We don't get the wristbands, but that's one thing they've been talking about as more people start going onto campus. Masks are very much required, and there's even some penalties from the county if you don't wear a mask in these indoor public locations. So they're pretty stringent about those things, and there's a health form you have to fill out every single time too. And originally, when it was just essential workers, they actually had it so you had to get actual health screened at our health department before you could come in. So there was a quick test that you had to take before you were allowed on into your building and all that stuff. And they actually segregated that by disabling people's badges and all that stuff. So they've loosened up on those rules, thankfully. So.
Yeah, we had a couple times during when I was here with limited staff that we did in fact do COVID testing. So I did get tested a couple times throughout this scenario to ensure that I did not have COVID-19 during me being here on a limited fashion. So.
Wow. Yeah, testing was hard to get around our area now. I know it's better now, but it was pretty hard in the beginning. Technically, I mean, I feel it's really been amazing to see how the technology that was there and that we knew was there, that we used a little bit, now we've all embraced, and it's just, it's so amazing to me that it's, 3 months ago, if you would have said that to me, I would have said, oh, that's probably not going to work. But I mean, it's working really, really well. I'm impressed. And even the student learning, and though I'm not involved in that part of it, to see how, Zoom, we use Zoom within the University of Washington, how well they've, embraced it, and how well it's working. And so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I do have to say, like, the Avaya technology stack, when put out to the test, at least for us, worked. And
us too.
when I compare notes to, because us being a part of the Big Ten, we meet with the other schools in the Big Ten on a very regular basis. Most of them are Cisco at this point, and the technology heartache that some of the schools had compared to what we had were totally in different levels. A lot of them relying on Jabber and old outdated clients that were no longer available on people's different app stores, or technology that just didn't work right or wasn't compatible. And there's some schools that I know of that just ended up having to just start call forwarding phones to people's cell phones and just be done with it, and not really embrace the technology stack that for us was just like check a box, it mostly worked, and then we were done. So
that is good to hear. I mean, that's just amazing, because a lot of people are always talking about how great Cisco is and stuff. And I agree that, the Avaya software and everything that we had in place really made this transition a lot easier. I mean, not that there's always going to be technical.
There's always room for improvement, but
there's always room for improvement. But
I'll tell you one thing, for what we had to stand up so quickly, like the fact that it worked. We didn't have to eat crow and say we had this technology, and then we had to kind of back off and say no, we could only do this little piece. Like, we were able to actually support remote workers for the entire campus for, in this case, now 105 days. So
yeah.
And even for my scenario, I was looking just for any kind of solution. We were thinking about purchasing cell phones and stuff like that, and reporting to a cell phone, but reaching out to Avaya and saying, hey, what can you do, considering the limited amount of 18-year-old hardware I have on campus. And they came up to the plate and they said, hey, look, we could do this solution. Basically, I set up the whole Avaya Cloud Office solution up myself, which was actually fairly seamless and easy to set up solution. And we started forwarding. That really got us out of a bit of a jam. And our CFO, who we report to directly, was very impressed with that. And hopefully that will turn into a full remote worker solution, which it seems like they're entertaining at this point now. So kudos to Avaya for stepping up to the plate, because that really shed a great light on them as far as our CFO is concerned.
Yeah, I was really happy that these great success stories having to do with Avaya. I mean, it's great to hear. Um, one of the things that on a personal note, when we first went to remote work, I would, I felt a little isolated for the first couple weeks, and I'd reached out to the team and said, should we meet once a week, or what, we would talk on Slack, and we would have our Zoom meetings if we were, working on something, but we weren't consistently meeting, and we kind of went back and forth, and then finally we decided, yeah, let's have a every morning meeting. We have a Zoom meeting every morning. We call it our coffee meeting, because what used to happen in our daily life was we would all come in, and then we would all get together, walk down to our local Starbucks, grab coffee, and then come back. And on that way, we would either talk about work related stuff, or we would talk about family and what we had been doing. And so we've transitioned that into this every morning Zoom meeting, where we talk about all the stuff that's going on, and what people are working on, and then family stuff and things like that. And I really believe if we weren't doing that, I would possibly feel a little bit more isolated from my team, because we were so close. And the things that you get into the office, sitting across from Sam and Tyler in the next room and listening to those guys, a lot of that just comes through you, and you get to learn stuff just on the sly. So it's been good to have that. So I'm curious, do you guys feel that kind of unconnection, and have you done stuff to get connected?
Yeah, so my team, so my peers, so other managers from other groups, we meet every day as well. Not the first thing in the morning. It's usually like every day it's a different time, but we do carve out a half-hour slot. And that's been great to kind of connect with them. My team, we haven't been as stringent on that. We're usually meeting, once a week, maybe twice a week. But I've got constant communication with all of them either way. So they kind of wanted to kind of go the route of, let's meet as we need and that type of stuff. So we have a little bit more disconnect with them, but not, nearly as much as I've got with my peers. But that's been kind of critical, is like kind of keeping up with everybody, and even on a personal level too, is important too. So that's been kind of key for all that. So I actually feel kind of closer now with some of my peers than I did even before the COVID stuff kind of happened. But what about you, Slade?
Yeah, coming in, I had to still come to work. I had to walk into a 100,000 square foot building that we're housed in, and it was basically lights off, fully locked down. And I'm pretty much the only person in the building whenever I walked in, because my hours are a little bit earlier than the other guys that were coming in at the same time during the event. So yeah, it was kind of lonely here on campus. You drive on campus, there's like 5 cars on a 200-acre campus. So it was pretty much like a ghost town. The commute was nice. No traffic.
Yeah, for our campus, they shut off all the stoplights.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
all the stoplights on campus are off, and it's like that was like kind of like a weird surreal thing, and it's like nobody around. It's like even on a spring break, there's more people around because there's always stuff happening, this camps and everything else, but it has been surreal.
Yep. So we were communicating a lot through Slack. We still do communicate a lot through Slack. I mean, majority of our staff's here, with the exception of about 3 or 4. So we would do in-person Google Meets was our platform that we were using pretty much, not necessarily every day, but pretty often. For me, I was the only boots on the ground and knew where everything was and had keys to everything, because I'm one of the limited staff that has keys to pretty much everywhere on campus. So I was the gopher, if you will. So anytime we had an issue, I was the one running around campus. And then, yes, we do have to report where I was going and all the buildings that I entered for contact tracing, like Marilyn had said earlier. And then, so I was running around like crazy. So you see, we have a little departmental van. So I was in my little van, going from building to building, fixing things, forwarding phones, doing all that kind of stuff. We had a couple of remotes, the battery died, and then we had power outage, and then the battery, then we had to go reboot the remotes, go re-enable forwarding phones, so you go through the whole track again of forwarding phones. So yeah, I ran around like crazy. So I was in constant communication with my folks, especially throughout the event, just because I was here, boots on the ground, and doing things. Hey, can you go reboot this server for me and things like that. So they kept me busy.
Again, technically working with Avio, we had a really good experience too. So that was one of the great things.
Yes, absolutely. We had a great experience with them as well. And like I said, that may actually turn into a remote working type of environment for us. Hopefully, trust me, I've been asking for it for quite some time now.
Yeah, we took those 100 temp license and then we bought them. So now they're ours.
Yeah, we were kind of in a similar situation too. We didn't have nearly enough licensing for all of our contact centers to work remotely. So the Avaya Agent for Desktop, specifically. So we ended up getting a bunch of temporary licenses, and those just turned into a real thing too. And the nice thing is too, because Avaya is one of the few vendors that stepped up and actually called us and asked us to help out, or asked to help out and all that type of stuff. Message came pretty loud and clear to our finance folks, and it's making the conversation about the maintenance renewals and all that stuff a lot easier, given the budget cuts and all that stuff too. So I know, again, some of my peers within the Big Ten, are having much more difficult conversations as far as the SmartNet renewals and all that stuff, because for them this is now an ongoing cost that they have to justify all the phones on desks and all the other stuff, where like I said, it's an easier conversation for us because we have a vendor and we have a partner who's willing to help out, and they realize what was going on. So,
and I had a big huge smile on my face when I got to talk to my CFO, and he says, I remember you asking for all this kind of stuff, and I guess this is the scenario you were trying to plan for. I go, yes, that's exactly correct.
God, I love that. Yep. Yeah, remember when we talked about phones and you said, oh, that's no big deal. It is when you don't have them.
My phone works. You pick up the receiver and have doubts on it. Works.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.